إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا إنه من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وحبيبه بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح بالأمة فكشف الغمة اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك وأنعم على حبيبنا ورسولنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه وصار على نهجه إلى يوم القيامة اللهم اجعلنا منهم ومن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمين يا رب العالمين. My dear respected brothers and sisters, we start by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We praise and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for who He is. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us and to forgive us. Because whomever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides, no one can misguide. And whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leaves to themselves, nobody can guide. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us, our families, our children, and to make us among those who hear or say the speech and follow the best of it. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Today is the last day of our Islamic calendar. And tomorrow we'll start a new year. So, at the same time, in a couple of days, a lot of us start school. A lot of parents are sending their kids off to school. Maybe it's your first child in school. Maybe your child's going to high school, so it's a big deal. Maybe he's off to college. And usually, school, or the beginning of the school, brings a lot of challenges. There's some challenges for parents. There's some challenges for students. Because just looking around, I can tell that a lot of parents here today did not go to high school here. A lot of parents did not go to college here. So you have no clue what goes on in there. And it's not a very easy journey. So inshallah ta'ala, over the next 25, 30 minutes that we have together, I want to share some advice around the school year, based on the Quran and the Sunnah, inshallah. Some of the advice is going to be to the parents, simply not because I know more than you, simply because I went to school here, and I know how it is. And also, there's some advice to some of the students, inshallah ta'ala, that I hope you can take it home with you. Before we start, let's all agree that going to public school here in America is very difficult. And it's a big challenge, especially for our hearts, for our spirituality, for our Islam, for our identity. Everyone struggles. I don't care if you're the most religious person, I don't care if you're the son of the sheikh, I don't care who you are. If you are in a public school, whether you're middle school, high school, or college, there's a lot of challenges. And it's not an easy place to be in. And when our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam prophesied that a time will come, al-masjid ala dinihi kal-qabid al-jamrat min al-nar, or kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a person who holds on to their religion is like a person who holds on to the coal. Let me tell you, it's today. It's right now. And it's more so in schools, in public schools. And I tell you, I went to high school 10 years ago. Now, it's a different place. It's a completely different place, especially for Muslims. The last thing somebody will talk about is religion, is faith, is God. There's so many desires that are throwing at our sons and our daughters on a regular basis. Every day, every year, somebody's going to ask your child, why don't you celebrate Christmas? Every year, somebody's going to ask your daughter, why do you have this thing on your head? Every year, somebody's going to ask, why do you guys fast Ramadan? This happens every single year. Our children are challenged on a regular basis of their deen. Now, I am saying this because I want to make sure that all the parents here, and actually all the adults here, know that you have a role to play. There's a big role for you. And this role is actually told to us by Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim alayhi salam, Allah calls him an ummah, a nation by himself. And perhaps he's one of the most highlighted fathers in the Quran. Him and Yaqub as fathers, not just prophets, as fathers, they're talked a lot about them in the Quran. Now what happens with Ibrahim alayhi salam? Ibrahim alayhi salam, one day, he picks up his son, Ismail, as an infant, and his wife Hajar, and he goes in the middle of the desert. And he leaves them, he turns around and he goes. So his wife is like, where are you going? You can't just leave us in the middle of nowhere. He kept walking. And then she looks at him and she says, أَأَمَرَكَ اللَّهُ بِهَذَا? Did Allah command you of this? He turns around and he says, yes. Then she says, فَلَنْ يُضَيِّعَنَ اللَّهُ أَبَدًا. Then Allah will never waste us. Allah will never leave us astray. Before we get about the practical advice and tips that I have for everybody, inshallah, understand, brothers and sisters, that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's going to protect our deen and the deen of our children. Because Yaqub alayhi salam, who's another great father, he says, وَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Allah is the best of protectors. You can do all you want. You can pick the best schools for them. You can send them to an Islamic school if you want. You can find them the best teachers. You can raise them to be the best Muslims. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's going to protect us and our children. And we have to understand that from the very beginning. And because of that, we have to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every single step. In every way, we have to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save my children. And for the students here, turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect you, to protect your heart, to protect your religion, to protect your spirituality. Because our hearts are the most valuable thing that we have. This little piece that we have. That's it. Because our Messenger ﷺ says in another hadith, إِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ لَمُضْغَةً إِذَا صَلُحَتْ صَلُحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبُ أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. Our Messenger ﷺ says that in the body, there is this thing. If this is good, if it's pure and it's clean and it's protected, the rest of the body will be good. And if it's corrupt, the rest of the body will be corrupt as well. It is the heart. So we have to do whatever it takes to protect our hearts. As students, as parents, as leaders of the community, every single one of us has to do whatever it takes to protect their heart. And inshallah ta'ala, some of the advice that I'm going to share is to do exactly that. Ibrahim alayhi salam keeps walking. And then, at one point, when he cannot see his wife, and his wife cannot see him, he turns around towards the Kaaba, and he starts to make dua. And this is mentioned in Surah Ibrahim, verse number 37. You can go back to it, inshallah, after. It's a whole really nice passage. You can read it on your own. The second thing, so first, understand that our children and us are protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, one of the youth of my community, young man, his name is Karim. Maybe some of you know him, but I'm pretty sure a lot of you do not know him. He went to NJIT. He tells me this story by himself. He says that one time, I was in a house with one of my friends. NJIT is in Newark, not the best place to be in, but he was there. And he was just hanging out, and some thief, came to rob them, jumped from the window, and they were sitting in that room. So Karim is sitting with his friend is non-Muslim. This thief takes out a gun and shoots his friend, right in the head. And he jumps from the window and he leaves. And Karim says, I'm sitting there, and he was like, why did he shoot me? He had no reason to shoot my friend. Whatever caused him to shoot my friend is the same exact reason he should have shot me too. But you know, he said, Muhammad, wallahi, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I felt that Allah covered me, that He didn't even see me. He didn't see me there. He shot my friend, jumped off the window and left. And again, I'm not saying this to scare anybody, but Allah protect you and your children. Say Ameen. But college is not easy. High school is not easy. Even middle school today, subhanAllah, is not easy. Things happen left and right. But we have to only rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are things for us to do, which I'll talk about. But I really want everybody to understand that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who protects our children. And we have to make sure that we are making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every single day for that protection. Even our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he had a dua before leaving his house. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika an a'udilla aw udall, aw adilla aw udhal, aw ajhal aw yujhal alayhi, aw adlim aw udlam, aw ajhal aw yujhal alayhi. Which means the Prophet ﷺ would make this dua every single morning when he leaves his house. Oh Allah, protect me, save me for anybody to be unjust to me or for me to cause any injustice to anybody else. Or for somebody to harm me, it's basically you're protecting yourself and you're protecting others from yourself. And the Prophet ﷺ would make this dua on a regular basis. Something very simple. Now let's look at the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam. What did he say? He looks at the Kaaba and he starts making dua and he says, رَبَّنَا إِنِّي أَسْكَنْتُ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ عِنْدَ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ فَاجْعَلْ أَفْئِدَةً مِنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْهِمْ وَارْزُقْهُمْ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْكُرُونَ. This is a beautiful dua in the Quran. Wallahi, Ibrahim alayhi salam is teaching us so much. Just in this one simple dua, it's 2 lines in the Quran. He says, رَبَّنَا, O our Lord. Because he recognizes that, oh Allah, I left them knowing that you're going to protect them. And brothers and sisters, I told you, sometimes for some of the parents, I work with a lot of youth. Alhamdulillah, for almost 10 years now. So I also work with the parents. And speaking with the parents, a lot of parents leave their kids at a public school, have no idea what goes on inside. Just like Ibrahim alayhi salam lived his family. It's exactly the same. They don't know anything. Which is fine. But essentially, Ibrahim alayhi salam leaves his children and he makes dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, Rabban, O our Lord. O the one who's been taking care of us. Ar-Rabb is the caretaker. Somebody who takes care of me. Who takes care of me and my family. He says, I put my family in a place knowing that there's no food. Nobody's there. And this is really fascinating because a lot of us cannot put our children in an Islamic school. We just can't. Maybe we can afford it until they're in 5th grade, but after that we can't. It's too much money. So we have no other option except to put them in a public school. And I know it's hard. As a parent, I know it's hard for my child. But that's okay. Ibrahim says, alayhi salam, I'm leaving them. I know there's no food. But I put them in a place for a reason. عند بيتك المحرم. Next or around your sacred house. We have to understand something. We cannot protect the identity of our children outside of the masjid. The masjid, and I'm not talking about Masjid Aman. I'm talking about any masjid. Whatever masjid you go to, whatever place that you feel comfortable in, understand that every single one of you, every single one here, needs to have his children connected to a masjid. Some sort of a house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where they can come and be Muslims and nobody has to judge them. Nobody has to look down on them. Nobody has to ask them weird questions. They can come and just freely be who they are. I'll tell you something, brothers and sisters, our children, even the ones who are, and I'm quoting this, are misguided or away from Islam, want to be good Muslims. They realize that I need to be a good Muslim. But we have not put them in the right environment where they can freely feel who they are as their identity. So you cannot ask somebody who is put in a secular place 19 hours a day and then expect them to be also Muslims if they have no connection to the masjid. If they don't come at least once or twice or 3 times a week, whether it's for a halaqah or just for prayers or just to hang out, but whatever it is. Ibrahim alayhi salam put his family next to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a reason. Because this is the number one priority. Before I pick the right house, before I pick the right school, before I pick the right town, before I pick the right job, I have to pick a place where they are connected to a masjid. And they have this relationship with the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because this is the place where, again, they build their identity. And that's exactly what Ibrahim alayhi salam did. He says, oh Allah, as long as they are by some sort of a masjid, it's okay. I'm gonna feel safe. Now, there's something that is very practical, and I think a lot of parents we all have to make a little bit of a bigger effort to do that. You have the right to go to your school administrators, where your kids go to school, even students are allowed to do the same thing, and request a prayer room, a prayer hall, a place where they can just take a 5-minute pass, they go make wudu and pray dhuhr and come back. Because a lot of our kids, they combine dhuhr and asr throughout the school year, at least during the winter. Because by the time you go home, 2:30, 3 o'clock, it's already asr time. And a lot of them don't have a place to pray. They might not be able to do that as children, as students. But as a parent, you can request it. And mashallah, alhamdulillah, there's actually a lot of schools in central Jersey, high schools, who are able to do that. And they have an established Jum'ah every single week during the school year. Because what happens a lot of times is that our children, they come to Jum'ah during the summer, and throughout the year, nothing whatsoever. And maybe all you need to do is just collect a group of Muslims, even if it's 4 or 5 people. You don't have to have 100 people for a Jum'ah to be established. And you can ask the Shaykh for that. You need just very few people. But this is a place where you can go and meet other Muslims in their schools. And I seriously mean that. We as parents, as elders, have to be invested in the religion and the spirituality of our children. And all it takes is just for you to meet somebody in the school. And nobody can deny you that right. It's just a small little room that's designated for prayers. And a lot of times, it's actually a room of one of the teachers. And this happens all the time. And I personally, I can help you. If this is something somebody wants to do that for their kids, come talk to me. I can help you. It's a very easy process. But this is for them, so when they are at home, right? I mean, in the school, 5 times a week, for a long period of time, they at least have a place to go and pray. Because you know what Ibrahim alayhi salam said next? He says, رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. That's all I want them to do. I want them to establish their prayers. Because what is going to protect us as believers is our prayers, is our salah. Our salah is the core of who we are. If we waste our salah, that's it. You know, when the Prophet ﷺ said that the difference between a believer and a non-believer is salah, a lot of times when we talk about this hadith, we talk about the fact that if somebody doesn't pray, are they Muslims or they're not, in this whole debate. Okay, let's leave that debate for a moment. Talk about you as an individual who every single day, for 5 times a day, has to break off from whatever he's doing. You don't care what kind of meeting you have, what kind of class you have, what kind of exams you have, you break for 5 minutes to stand in a corner and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What kind of impact is that going to have on your heart? Young and old, everybody. We're praying 5 times a day for a reason, brothers and sisters. You know, one time a man goes to the Shaykh and says, Shaykh, why can't we just pray one big prayer? You know, I go home, I pray for 30 minutes, and that's it. Instead of having to pray. One of the points, one of the benefits and the wisdoms of us praying 5 times a day, it reminds us of who we are. Every single few hours, hey, you're a Muslim, go pray. Hey, you're a Muslim, go pray. Yeah, but I was doing so and so, it doesn't matter, go pray. But I was hanging out with this girl on campus. It's okay, go pray. But I was just partying. It's okay, go pray. I just came back, I was drinking the night before. It's okay, get up at perfection and pray. Our prayers is what identifies who we are. And so that's why Ibrahim alayhi salam said what? رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُ الصَّلَاةِ. Because if our children, and obviously us, can establish salah, that's it. They will be protected. You know that same Kareem I talked about earlier, whose friend got shot? I asked him, I said, why do you think Allah protected you? He says, because Muhammad, listen, I'm in college, I've done all kind of wrong things, but I've never left my 5 daily prayers. And I felt this was the one thing that protected me. This person could have walked in and shot me, but he didn't, only because I think Allah protected me, because I always prayed 5 times a day. I don't care what's going on. I don't care if I was just been smoking weed, I pray 5 times a day. I don't care what I've been doing, I pray 5 times a day. Praying 5 times a day. And I know a lot of times we're like, is this really the best advice you can give me? You know, school and stress and exams and yes. 5 times prayers. Yeah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it one of the pillars of our deen. When the Prophet tells us that the day of judgment, the first thing we'll be asked about is prayers, because prayers is the one thing that will protect who we are. Our identity. Our Islam will be protected as long as we pray 5 times a day. And as parents, as children, we have to do whatever it takes to make sure we help our children establish their prayers. Whether it's bringing them here on Friday nights. There's a Friday night program, by the way, tonight at 8 p.m. In case you guys don't know, bring your children. And it's there every single Friday. And there's also, I think there's a Wednesday night program here as well for the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Bring your kids. Come. I promise you, it's, wallahi guys, the most hurtful thing that I hear as somebody who works with a young man, or the young men, or the young people, is that a parent coming to me and says, my son left Islam. My daughter's pregnant. My daughter married a non-Muslim, I wanted to kill her. Wallahi, there's a brother, I'm not making this stuff up. There's a brother, his daughter, Allah protect all of our kids, Allahumma ameen. She married this person who is a Muslim. But he's not practicing, he just became Muslim to marry her. So, he got married, okay? And then, he left Islam. And she loves him, so they just kind of kept going on with the marriage. You know what the father says? He says, I cannot wait for the chance to kill her. Why would a father do that? Because they get to a point where you're like, man, these children. But when you are thinking about the Islam and the identity of your kids at 21, 20, 22 years old, it's already too late. It's already too late. It starts right now when they're 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. And we do have a role to play, and I cannot stress this enough. Every single parent, every single person here has a role to play. And it's just as simple as taking your car right before Isha, come here, pray Isha, spend 5 minutes and go back. That's it. And again, maybe it's just one night in a week, maybe 2 nights, whatever you can do. But mashallah, everybody is here for Jum'ah, which is amazing. May Allah accept it from all of us. Say Ameen. Now we need to be just as much doing Isha, simply because of the protection of our children. Because you know what is we always say that the most growing religion is Islam, right? We always heard that before. You know, actually the most growing religion right now is atheism. People are leaving religion, including Muslims. Young men and young women are just like, I don't care about this religion anymore. And I promise you, if we are able to teach them and help them establish their 5 daily prayers, inshallah, their Islam will be protected. So number 1 is the masjid. Number 2 is salah. Number 3, Ibrahim alayhi salam said, فَجْعَلْ أَفْئِدَةً مِنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْهِ. Let people come to them. Because the human being by nature does not like to be alone. We want some good company. We want to be around good company. So Ibrahim alayhi salam says, "Oh Allah, here's the masjid. I want them to establish salah, but I don't want them to be alone." The third advice, and this is to all the students here. Watch the people you hang out with. Watch your friends. Who's your company? When you're in school, whether you're in college, whether you're in high school, who are you hanging out with? Now, it's not fair, just to be transparent with you, it's not fair to say that you can only be friends with Muslims. Because we live in a non-Muslim land. Okay, brothers, I think there's some brothers coming in, so maybe if you guys can step up a little bit, inshallah. It's not fair to say that we all have to be friends with other Muslims. Because if our children are going to public school, if you all go to college, yes, there might be other Muslims, especially if you go to Rutgers University, so there's a lot of Muslims there, you'll find plenty of friends. But not everybody is able to be friends with other Muslims. What is the criteria of being a friend with a non-Muslim? There's just one simple thing. And there might be other things, and maybe it's a whole topic on its own. If you want to be a friend, if your best friend, the one you're hanging out with, right? You're ride and die type of guy or girl, make sure that they accept who you are from a religious perspective. Make sure that they're okay with you saying, "Hey Tom, hey John, let me just pray for 5 minutes, and then we can go on and do whatever we were doing. Listen, man, I cannot go to that party because people are drinking, I'm sorry." And they'll be okay with that. But do not be with somebody who is going to mock you every time you say, "I'm sorry, I cannot go to this party. I'm sorry, I'm a Muslim." Because eventually you're going to hate your religion. Because if every single person you hang out with is mocking, or you're not even able to re-establish the fact that you are Muslim and you are different from them, it's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ يقول يا ليتني اتخذت مع الرسول سبيلا يا ويلتى لم أتخذ فلانا خليلا لقد أضلني عن الذكر بعد إذ جاءني. A person on the day of judgment will come and they will bite on their fingers and they will say, "Oh Allah, this person misguided me after guidance came to me." Yani I was guided already. I knew exactly what I was supposed to be doing. I know I'm supposed to pray 5 times a day. I know I'm not supposed to drink alcohol. I know I'm not supposed to smoke weed. I know I'm not supposed to be with this girl. But this one friend came and he made me do all these things. We know what we're supposed to be doing. Do not hang out with people. And guys, I mean this wallahi with all sincerity. Do not hang out with people who take you away from your religion. Even if they're Muslims. Because it will happen. Or your own Muslim brothers and sisters are the first one to take you away from your deen. Are the first one to make fun of you. Because you're like, "Hey guys, let's just stop for a minute and pray." And it happens. It happens. So watch your company. Watch who you hang out with. Now, the last piece I'm going to share with everybody, inshallah, is the role of the father and the mother with the children from a company's perspective. Then I'll share this inshallah in the second part of the khutbah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Before I mention the role of the parents, there's one last piece of advice to students. High school, college, middle school. You might not take anything from the khutbah, just kind of go on and do whatever you're doing, which is fine. But there's 3 things that if you stay away from, I hope inshallah you'll be okay. Drugs, alcohol, and the opposite gender. That's the only advice I'm giving students here. Okay? Just stay away from these three things. Drugs, alcohol, and the opposite gender. And this goes obviously for both sisters and brothers. That's it. Pray 5 times a day. Try as much as you can. Make sure your 5 daily prayers are established. Okay? Stay away from these three things. Inshallah, your college, your high school experience, inshallah, you will be fine. Right? Because we cannot expect our young to be super duper religious in public schools. It's very hard. Right? But at least there's basics that we have to remain on. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us. Now, Yaqub alayhi salam and Yusuf had an incredible father-son relationship. And the same lessons we get from them is also works for a mother and a daughter, a mother and a son, a father and a daughter. Oh, it's all the same. And I'm bringing this up because one of the things that are somewhat common to hear, especially from a lot of young people, right, is that I don't have a relationship with my dad. He's busy at work. Maybe we see each other every once in a while, but there's no conversation. He gives me my allowance or whatever, that's it. One of the other common things to hear as well is that, man, Mr. Smith, he's like my second father. Mrs. This is like my second mother. I'm like, dude, why do you need a second mother? Imagine you go one day, you tell your wife, I'm marrying somebody else. Am I not enough for you? Right? First thing, why do people need a second mother and a second father? And believe it, it's a lot more common than a lot of us think. A lot of students are establishing these awesome relationships with their teachers. They talk to them about everything. Right? Whatever problems they have, they go to. Why aren't you talking to your parents? Why aren't you having this relationship with your father, with your mother? Why isn't your father the number one person you go to when you are in trouble? And this a lot has to do with the role of us as fathers. And I'm being very honest with you guys. I haven't been a father for a long time. But I've worked with the young people for a very long time. And I know what they're going through. And I'm going to tell you the methodology of Yaqub alayhi salam. If you're able to follow it, inshallah you'll be fine. The last thing, inshallah, will end up with. Yaqub alayhi salam, as a prophet, his little son Yusuf, he was around 7, 8 years old. He had a dream. So he goes to his father, and he tells his father the dream. يا أبت إني رأيت 11 كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين. Yusuf has this dream. He didn't know what it means. So he went to his father. He says, Ya abati, oh my dear father, oh my beloved father. That means, okay? Now look what his father did. There's 5 steps, it's a 5-step process. It's a 5-step process in conversations between a father and a son, or a father and a daughter, or a mother and a son or a daughter. These 5 stages, inshallah. If you leave with nothing, this will be enough. The first thing Yaqub did was that he listened to his son. قال يا أبت إني رأيت 11 كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين. The scholars of tafsir, they said that Yusuf alayhi salam said رأيتهم twice, 2 times. He didn't have to say that. But this has to do with the fact that Yaqub alayhi salam was listening to him. So Yusuf is saying, so dad, I saw this dream, and Yaqub's like, okay. And then he continues like, okay. Yaqub is listening to his son. I'll tell you something, my dear respected fathers, we do not listen to our kids. We jump right away to give them advice. They tell us something, here's what you need to do. Listen, number 1. Number 2, accept. Accept who they are. Your sons and your daughters are going to make mistakes. Just like you did when you were younger. Right? None of y'all were just born, mashallah, awesome, super religious. A lot of us did a lot of bad things when we were younger. Didn't we? And we just wish that our parents would understand just a little bit. Keep moving up, brothers and sisters, inshallah. Almost done, inshallah. Just a couple more minutes. But we need to listen to our parents, to our children. and accept who they are. If they come to me and they tell me, Dad, I messed up. Don't say it's okay. Just accept who they are. Your son is something and his mistakes are something else. Just because your son or your daughter did something wrong, it doesn't make them the devil. It doesn't make them the worst people on this earth. No. Accept who they are. Allah, I think if we just do this second thing, it will solve a lot of problems. A lot of our children do not feel accepted. Your son, your daughter runs to you and he says, Dad, I got 90 in my exam. Why not 100? Yeah, Habibi, 90 is great. Wallahi, when you get to college, C's get degrees. They're great. They work fine. But a lot of times we don't accept them. You know, your daughter starts putting the hijab, and the hijab is maybe not so perfect. Oh no, you gotta make it all perfect. It's okay. It's okay. Just take step by step. Do not expect your children to be perfect. Accept who they are. Yaqub alayhi salam could have made fun of his son. He was like, oh, don't worry about this dream, it's okay, just go back to sleep. No. He accepted him. He accepted this. And then, number 3, he says, Ya bunay, oh my beloved son, oh my dear son. He showed him love. Which is another thing. SubhanAllah, man. We Arabs, we don't know how to show fun love to our kids. They have to go somewhere else to see it, to seek it. Sometimes the most beloved people to our children are the teachers. Yaqub alayhi salam loved his son. And then he gave him advice. That's number 4. He says, Ya bunayya la taqsus ru'yaka ala ikhwatika. He could have just said right away, Yusuf, do not tell your brothers. No, but there was a process. He followed some sort of a process. Because you understand, this is a little child. It's a little kid. Listen, accept, love, advice, and the last thing, very, very important, reason with your children. لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا. He could have just said, do not tell your brothers. End of discussion, that's it, let's go have dinner. He says, let me give you a reason why I'm giving you that advice. Especially in America, everything is by rationale. The number 1 question you will always hear from your children, why? Hey, you have to pray 5 times a day. Why? You cannot be out late. Why? You have to do this. Why? Because they're programmed in school to ask why. Be ready to tell your kids why. Here's why I'm telling you this. You cannot say, this is just because I'm your father. Doesn't work.